Well, today I'd like to show you how to tie this style of shoe. This is my favorite pair because they keep my feet from slipping, and I use them for running and walking, and really just everyday wear too. Just trying to give you a couple of different angles on how these look. Alright, well, I'm going to try to do this from a first-person perspective so you can see. So again, here's what the finished shoe is going to look like without a foot in it. So the first thing we're going to do, you'll notice, is we're going to poke slightly different holes than kind of your standard for a lot of the videos. And here's a picture. I'm not sure if you can see the holes, but there's one here, one here, one here, and one here. And the way that I find these spots is I put the footbed down, I put my foot in, and I would normally stand on that to get my foot to spread properly so I'd know exactly where it was. But then I pretty much look for the little notch right there by the big toe. There's a little notch right behind this bone, a little notch over by the pinky toe, and kind of the hardest one to find is there's a little notch sort of right behind that toe knuckle. So those are the four spots that we're sort of looking to get. The way that I poke these holes actually is to stand on the footbed on, you know, a block or something, so I'm not going to poke through all the way to the floor. And then I take that little punching tool and I nestle it right up into this notch, putting it against the footbed. And then I just give the hammer a couple little taps just to make an indentation so that later I can find those holes and actually poke them all the way. So I'll stand there, just kind of nestle into that notch, find this notch, sort of nestle. The same over here. I've poked this particular pair, happens to be the one pair that I just felt like relacing for today, but the whole position on these is my least favorite. I poked them a little bit too wide, and it turned out I didn't like that, although it does accommodate socks better. So this is the pair I usually wear when the weather gets chilly. Alright, now once you've got those four additional holes poked, and we've got the two that came with your footbed, we're going to start the actual lacing. There's a couple of tricks that I use for the lacing as well. One of them is I tie a piece of dental floss to the end of the actual lace because I find that helps me thread it through better. I'm not having as much luck with this particular pair. I'm not sure if it's the color. I've never actually threaded a white pair before, but I thought these would be high contrast. Or if there's something with it, I think these are the newer laces too, which I don't think I've threaded before. But the basic idea for our first threading here is going to be that we're going to go down, take one end down through this outside ankle hole, and the other end is going to go down through the inside ankle hole. So I'm going to try to do that right here so you can see. So I will take this bobby pin and thread my dental floss that I attach to the end through and then pull that through, and that actually worked pretty nicely. So maybe I was just having a little trouble earlier for other reasons. I've got my other piece of dental floss here which fell off, but I'm putting kind of a little, you know, like the just kind of a, you know, not a super tight tied knot, but the sort of knot in here that will tighten as I pull on that thread. But I just found this makes it a lot easier, and especially the beads on this style are totally optional, but if you do choose to use them, then this will make getting the beads on those ends a whole lot easier too. Alright, so there we are through this. So pretty much all I've done at this point is make a heel. So I have the strings coming down through both sides. Now, at this point, I'm going to tie these. If you look, there's going to be another video that's going to show about putting beads right here on the heel. We already are past the step where we would put those beads on. Unfortunately, I meant to show you that, but it would be before you actually thread these through. You could put the beads on this part. Oops, it's not in there. On this part of the heel, if you were going to bead instead of not. But at this point, what I'm going to do is just take my inner piece. I want to have this inner piece only be, I don't know, maybe 20 inches long or so. It's kind of hard to fit that all in the view of the camera. It's not super critical exactly how long those are because there's enough extra lace. It's not going to be a problem. But one end is going to be longer than the other. Okay, so once I've kind of made that heel, I put my foot in it. Make sure that it's about where I want it. Kind of try to tighten that up a little bit. And this material is tight enough that it's gonna hold while you accomplish the next part, which is the same as the other videos. I just do some wrapping. So just wrap this long end around that ankle 2 or 3 times, just kind of, you'll get some feel for how high you want it. And then I always do just sort of put I put some sort of a little knot right in the top. Just, an easy, simple little once through kind of knot. Kind of tighten those down. So I usually do 3 wraps on the outside, 2 on the inside, but it kind of, sort of depends on what's comfortable for your feet. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the inside. I'm going to wrap twice. And wrap that nice and tight, and then just make a little knot. Now one of the things that I really like about the other style that I will show in another video that uses the beads right here is that this part is kind of hard at this point to adjust without untying everything. I mean, you can untie, loosen everything, but it's kind of hard. So the beads let you sort of adjust that if you, after you wear them for a little bit, if you decide you don't quite like the fit, you can make a little bit of an adjustment. So check that out if you're interested in a little bit more adjustment. Okay, I'm sorry. I know this keeps going off the bottom of the screen. I'm sort of trying to work around a little tripod, so pardon me for that. Okay, so now at this point we've got a heel, a couple of knots here, and you might want to I didn't do a great job of angling that one out in the right way, but it doesn't really matter, it turns out. And I've got a lot of extra string. So now I'm going to actually start the actual tying part. Alright, so now that we've got a heel, it's time to do the more interesting part of the tying. The more complicated part. My heel is kind of slipping here. And I do apologize. I know I probably keep going off the bottom of the screen. I'm trying to stay up on the screen. But it's kind of hard because I'm sort of wrapped around a tripod here. Oops, and I kind of lost my loops and ties here. You can also, I've done pairs of these where I just tie as opposed to looping and tying in the insole and the outsole. I just tie the whole way because it felt sturdier to me. Okay, so now we're ready to do the interesting tying. You see I lost my little dental floss threader there, so I'm going to stick that back on. Okay. Now, at this point, you don't have to do, this style can be totally done without beads. You don't need any of the beads at all, but I found that they just kind of neatened up the ends a little bit. These are just some little pewter beads. They have to have a pretty big hole, so I think these are probably 5.5 millimeter inner diameter holes, which is about what I needed to get it over both of the ties that I'm going to put through it. I've done this with lamp beads as well, but I had to pull off the silver interiors to get that to work. So you just have to look for something with a nice big enough hole, and if it's a small hole, it's a real nuisance. So on this particular pair, I'm just going to put just the minimal number, just one bead on each of these sides that are going to hold the ties at the very end. And like I said, these are pewter beads. This particular set actually is still looking pretty good. I have been wearing these through mud puddles and all over the place, so they're holding up really nicely. But from this point in the shoe, you actually do need to go ahead and thread one of these beads, so it'll be there later when you need it. So on that longer string, go ahead and thread 1 or 2 or 10 or however many beads you're going to want to end up. They're going to end up right, these are the beads that are going to end up right along here. So as many as you want. I have 2, obviously, on these, which I like a little better. These are slightly tighter, so 1's good. Okay, so now we're going to do the threading pattern. So our first hole is going to be, we're going to go across the foot, basically. So from this outer heel, I've got this string, hopefully you can see the one that's wiggling. It's going to go down through the hole that's closer to the heel on the inside. So we're going across, make a little diagonal across. And don't worry too much about the tension just yet. We're going to get back to that once we've got all the holes threaded. So I've gone down over here. I'm going to come up now, right, just up the edge, up here. Okay, I'm going to go across the foot now. This is going to be across the toes, and here I'm going down in the hole, which is further away from the heel. So I've got kind of a straight line across, and then I'm going to come up just down the edge from there. Okay, so now this is the basic, here's our basic threading pattern. So we came from the outer side, down below the toes, up right in that little notch in the big toe, down by the notch in the little toe, and up by the notch behind that little toe knuckle. Okay, so now we've got the basic threading done. We go across, over the toes, and up. And we're going to put these on now and kind of adjust the tension. I'll just slide my foot in here. And I'm going to kind of just sort of, I would normally do this standing up so that I had better tension, sort of, pull on the ropes, pull on the strings until they're kind of nice and tight the way I'd like them. Just for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not using my most favorite foot beds, so I'll just remind you again, like I'm not crazy about the position of these holes. I would like them to be a little closer into my toes. So if you're looking and thinking this one looks a little strange, that's why. Okay, so once I have this tension adjusted properly, I'm going to do the final tying. Now, if you are using the bead, then right now would be the time on the short one, on the inner sole, you want to put the other bead on. So now I've got a bead here, I've got a bead, sorry, it's hard for me to work around this tripod. I've got a bead on the inside, I've got a bead over here on the outside. And now I'm going to do the actual tying. So the first step is I'm going to take, these two are going to both come towards the middle. So let me start with this one. I'm going to bring it around and tuck it under. And I'm going to do the same with this one. Now there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. I'm doing it the wrong way first to show you what will happen. When you do this, if you pull and these go off to the sides, then you've made it's a minor mistake, which is that the string from the inner side, from the inner part of your foot, needs to go closer to the heel than the string from the outer part of the foot. So you can see once I put these on a different way, put them on with the other one on top, I get a nice tight little knot here. It looks kind of like two E's back to back. And from here, this is pretty much the end of the structural part. I can just tie that off, and I could be happy. Now, a lot of times I put a square knot here. If I'm going to go on and do the rest of the knots, I don't necessarily. But I just have a really simple knot here. So you could stop here, and you could be happy. You could tuck these two ends back into your beads and be done. But I found it to be a little bit annoying that where this strap actually lays across my foot, even when I have the holes poked exactly like I like them. So I like to make this last step, which is this. So starting from here, I've got my knots. I've just tied this one knot. I take one of the strings, I go up through that, over that one toe strap. I kind of wrap around itself a couple of times, adjust the tension a little bit. I go under the strap across the middle. I go over and then back under the strap that's right around the ankle here, or right on the top of the foot actually. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my other long strap. I'm going to go up and over, kind of twist around a couple of times. Tighten that tension to be like I like it. And you can see this pulls that strap from being straight. It pulls it down into a little bit of a V, which I found much more comfortable. So now I'm going to go under that middle, again, over around this top of the foot part, over and under. I know this one looks a little strange, but it would certainly, it'll sort itself out as we kind of tighten it properly. And then I would tie this together, and here I would probably use a good solid square knot if I hadn't used one up further. It doesn't really matter. So there, I've got a good square knot. And that is the end of the tying. The only thing left to do is just to tuck these ends back through the bead so that I would have this kind of holding those ends in place. I just found that made for a neater finish for me, and these beads are small enough that I don't feel them. They don't hurt or anything. So there you go.